Okay, so a few little technical hiccups. This is the GGR. Everything just crashed about 10 minutes ago, so we don't have the lead-ins and stuff. But I'm here and Elliot's here, and I think the signal's there. I'm just going to bring him straight on. We forget the music. Elliot, I think you're up in 1, 2. Here we go. Boom. Oh, your
Hey,
little screen. How come your little screen? Oh, jeepers. Hang on. I might be able to change this. There you go. Your big screen. So how's it going?
yeah, it's going good. Very good.
Okay, so if everything's going well for you and me, we'll be live right now, James. Just checking it. But
Okay.
anyway, yeah, sorry about being late, everyone. So good to chat. Sorry I wasn't there in Fremantle when you got there, eh? That was a bit of an epic.
Yeah, that would have been cool, but it's all good. No worries.
Yeah. So you're on the boat. Is it dried out?
Yeah, it's super nice and dry here in Fremantle, and the boat is finally dried up. Yeah, it's very nice.
Yeah, that's cool. And you've stocked up on pizzas. What have you been eating and drinking besides the sun
Yeah.
and the smells of the earth?
Well, the first meal was a big hearty salad, and followed by an entire pizza and ice cream and a beer. So
Yeah.
it was a
Who's the
good
people?
victory.
Who's the people there that sort of grabbed you when you got? Because there's no, we didn't have any GGR people. We didn't have any, your friends couldn't make it out and stuff. So what happened?
Uh, Sorry, somebody. Hey, I'm doing an interview. Sorry. Yeah. I'll give you in a minute. Sorry, Don. There's still people always coming up to the boat. Yeah, but the people that came to me are amazing. Pip and Sharpie. I guess they're friends with Avalash, and also are reached. I guess they just big fans of GGR, and
Yeah.
they're great sailors themselves
Cool.
and wonderful people. And they came like 15 miles out to find me and help pilot me in, because I had no charts. And you know, we talked about, you guys helped me with coordinates, but it's a little bit different. It was very tricky still. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. Jeepers. Sorry, everything's happening at once. I got a double booking on another big. Anyway. So okay, look, to me, I mean, everyone's been following your story. Most of the people here know the story, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But I just want to go back and reflect on how this happened for you. Like when it actually forms an idea, and just learn a little bit more about what sort of constitutes Elliot. Tell us about your schooling. Where'd you go to school? Like, were you a star student, or you just sort of flipped out and started playing music, or what? How was your school life?
I went through school pretty well and pretty, I guess, easy in one regard. And then through high school, it was no problem school wise. But yeah, and then I did go to university for a little bit.
What were you studying at uni?
Art. I was studio art, mainly film photography, actually. So yeah, I started that, but I didn't finish. I got pretty fed up with a lot of the things that most people do when you quit school. So
Yeah. So,
um,
so where did it go then? What drew your interest to the water or surfing, or what were you drawn to next? Maybe the surfing and stuff was later.
yeah, no, I was starting to learn how to surf at the end of high school and in the beginning of college. And one of my best friends and roommate, he was also hooked. So we would just always take trips together and surfing. And then I had some friends that started talking about sailing, and they were the ones that gave me the book Dove. And that kind of totally opened up my world, thinking like, oh my gosh, like maybe if this young kid could do this, like I could maybe do it one day if I learned the ropes. And um, I was like, and it could take me to any of the best surf places in the world, and really hard to get ones, beautiful places. And you know
That's
yeah,
amazing, eh?
so yeah,
Because
yeah,
Dove goes back a long time. That's when I was young. I still
yeah.
remember going to the picture theatre, the cinema. When I was a
Hmm.
little kid to watch Dove. Like that's crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So that had a huge influence. And then um
So how did you evolve into the
yeah.
boat? Like, how did you raise the money to get your first little boat?
Well, I didn't know how to. Well, it's actually my first boat. Technically, is actually very little known, but I didn't. When I moved to California to kind of just change things up, so I was moved side the other country, and I didn't really know anybody, or so I was living in a truck and for a long time in the back of a little pickup, and
How long was a long time?
like 7 months. For a pickup, for a small pickup truck, that was a long time.
So you're surfing and just picking up jobs where you could.
Yeah, and riding bikes, like doing bike messenger stuff for work, and yeah, and then yeah, and just surfing, trying to do art stuff and meeting a lot of cool people. But then, the whole time, like, sailing was like something I still thought was unattainable to learn, because I was poking around, and either I already had to have a boat, or I had to join some club and volunteer, and maybe I'd get to use the dinghy once a month, which I don't know how to use. So it was like, and San Francisco Bay is known to be pretty gnarly. So I didn't know, and I was just kind of thumbing around waiting for a job. I was like, I've got to be able to find a job either on a fishing boat or something to get me more familiar with boats, and I can work my way into sailing. And then, so I was applying to stuff in the meantime, and I just got so bent that I had to learn how to sail. Me and my roommate conned our other roommates to donate $50, and we all pulled like $400 to buy this trailer sailor down in south of San Francisco that I swore I would fix up. And I was living in the city, with there's no room for parking, let alone parking a boat. And living in a house with like 9 or 10 people. And so we go down there and pick up this boat, and it was the biggest piece of garbage you could see. Like, it was like rot. The whole thing was just, there's holes in it. There's, rotting. It was, this little old wooden kit boat, and I don't even know if it had a mast, to be honest. I mean, it was just, but we bought it because we just were like, it's a boat, like we'll figure it out. And so we parked it in the driveway and pissed off all of our neighbors and roommates, and and I blew my oh yeah, it was horrible. And I tried to fix it up for like a few weeks, and then it collected so many tickets because it stuck out in the street, and
which you didn't pay.
No, of course not. No, and because it wasn't registered to anybody or anything. So we're all like everybody's just so tired of seeing it, and it's such an eyesore. It's like rotting, and everybody's like, I had a friend who had her best friend was a really big sailor, and was so outraged at the idea that I was gonna fix that boat and put it in the San Francisco Bay and sail it myself. She was like, this is a serious thing. Like, San Francisco is no joke. There's rescues every day from idiot people that think that they can handle themselves on shit boats and blah, blah, like, just totally ripping me. And I was like, screw you. Like, I'm going to do this.
Now. I wonder if she's watching.
Yeah, well, she's a good friend now, so it's funny.
Anyway, but that's good on her. Good on her. That's
no, it was.
Yeah.
No, for sure. It was a big perspective. And then, long story short, I didn't have a car to pull it, and my roommate, we burned out his transmission using his truck, so he wouldn't let me try it anymore. And it just sat there, and it had to go, and we didn't know how to get rid of it. Like, what the heck do you do with a boat in the city? You can't just dump it on the side of it.
That's a big problem today. Yeah.
So I was scrambling around trying to sell the trailer's in good shape, and people were like, "Oh, I just want the trailer." I'm like, "Dude, you got to take the boat too." Like, and nobody would do it.
$400 for the trailer, though.
Yeah, but nobody would do it. Like, I was like, "Dude, I'll let you take the trailer. You can just take the whole thing for free. You just got to get it." And then all of a sudden, it collected enough tickets, and they put a boot on it, and I was like, yeah, they put a boot on it or something, or taped it off saying like, you have 2 days to pay your fines, or we're taking it. And I was like, oh, right on, solves the problem. And then so my buddy, uh, my buddy Matt, who's the one that helped buy the boat with me, and he's at home and he sees the tow truck coming, and he's like calling me. He's like, "Dude, they're gonna take it. They're gonna take it." And I was like, "Yes." And then my downstairs neighbor comes out while they're hooking it up to the truck and starting to pull it away. And my downstairs neighbor, who doesn't really know us or didn't know us as well at the time, thought like, "Oh shit, they're taking his boat." And he goes, "That's my buddy's boat. Don't take it." And he's like, they're like, "Okay, like we'll leave it." And then all of a sudden Matt goes, "No, it's not, Taylor. Like that's not our boat. They need to take." And they're like, the people are so confused, and then they haul it away. So it was that was my first boat.
So it never even made it to the water.
Not even close.
No, that's courage. That's courage. Life's a learning experience, eh?
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
well, that sets the scene pretty well.
Yeah,
So then, okay, that was a shocker, but you're still obsessed and really pissed now because that didn't work. So what happened next?
Well, I got a job off Craigslist doing first mate / bartender on these little day charters in the bay. And
Perfect.
yeah, it was unbelievable. And they had a sailing school and a little yacht club, an excuse for we could sell liquor on the boat.
Yeah.
And then it was, I mean, my captains were amazing, like super experienced people, and they taught me all the basics so fast. And I had never had a job more than like bike messenger or working at a coffee shop, so I started making all these good tips. And
so how old were you then?
I was 20. I think I was 23.
Jeez. Wow.
Yeah, so four, maybe 22, 23.
Yeah.
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 That's
and
cool.
Yeah, so
I wonder if they're watching.
Who? The captains?
The dudes, the captains and stuff watching.
Yeah, yeah. Captain Randy, he's been a big
dude.
advisor of mine. And same with Dave and Jeff and Michael too. They're all still involved.
Yeah,
and
cool.
Yeah, just rad people. And
so okay, so you got to focus now for the money. You save the money, and then
I'd never seen so much money in my life. It was like only $8,000, and I never had more than rent. So I was like, what the hell do people do with all this money? And I was like, I buy a boat. So I'm gonna buy a real one this time. And I was like, well, I don't want one over here because I can sail our charter boats anytime. What's the point of having my own boat and right here in San Francisco? So I was like, well, I'll have a look at boats back home in Florida, and maybe I'll just have a little wintertime Bahama cruising boat or something. And that's exactly what I did. So I found Nortenia 28-foot Pearson Triton, 1963. Yeah, it was just a wonderful boat. I learned. That's where I really learned.
Yeah, how'd you snatch that? What was it cost?
I think it was pretty much all my money at like $7,500 or $8,000, maybe like $8,000, and it probably had a lot of things wrong.
Safety equipment and gear, radios and new sails and stuff.
I can't tell you. I didn't have a single safety equipment on the boat. I don't think. I don't even think we had a first aid kit.
Yeah, so you love the GGR.
Yeah, well, that was exactly. I know. I'm trying to bring my medical kit back with me. It was worth so damn much.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, so that's cool. So then off on sailing adventures. So did you bring all your mates back that put in for the $400 to pay them back? Take them for a ride.
Well, yeah, two of them did end up coming for a couple of trips, or at least one of them for a couple of trips, and he's been a big. I mean, all of them are still a big part of my life, and Steven, in fact, is one of the main people who helped inspire this race in general, or inspire me to attempt something like this. And so we cruised the Bahamas, like 4 of us in that little boat for like a month, and we looked like a damn clown car every time at Anchorage compared to everybody else. Like another person pop up, another person, and someone's cooking out and breakfast on deck, and it was hilarious.
Yeah. Good time. So something happened. You went from Dove to GGR. Where did that happen? Someone talked about it, or you read it, or what, on your little boat?
Yeah. Well, no, I didn't know any. I couldn't tell you anything about any race ever, and I still probably can't. And then I came across The Long Way from Metissier, and then that was probably the second year when I was on Norteña, and um, starting to kind of hear more about like single-handed racing from my captain Randy, and that really piqued my interest. And I at first, like, my goal that I set was like, I want to do the single-handed Transpac before I'm 30. And
Yeah.
then somehow that transformed to I want to do the Golden Globe race before I'm 27. I don't know how that escalated, but yeah, I think Metissier, just his account really intrigued me and um,
Yeah. So
really drew me.
were you a big book reader? Like you read a lot of books?
Um, I go through binges of it. I really wouldn't say I think I'm a big reader now.
The last
But
few months, yeah.
yeah, oh, no kidding. It's insane. But um, when I'm sailing, I've noticed I read, actually, that's probably the main time I read, and I really enjoy that. So sailing kind of brought about reading more to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I got to reflect. I remember your first call. It was late, not long before the start of the GGR. And after the
Mhm.
call, I said to Jane, I said, jeepers, I didn't, I forget what the reaction was. I just sort of thought, oh, he's a cool dude. He's got a dream, but geez, he hasn't even got the entry fee. You didn't even have the entry fee. So I got a little boat, and I
I don't know if
remember
I
you.
had the application fee.
I know, yeah. Just the first $5,000, and
Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
remember you said something like, we were talking and talking as you do, didn't really know you, and then you said, oh well, yeah, I just got to find the entry, the deposit. I don't have $5,000, and I'm thinking, huh, and I got a bit of a tweak, but as you know, I thought, oh, because it's all about encouraging people, but I warned you, I
Sure.
said, look. Once you pay it, it's gone. So don't pay it unless you know you're coming and all that stuff. And bugger me, probably 2 months later you paid it. And
Yeah.
that was, I don't know. And I think you said, oh, one of my mates said this is covered or something or whatever. I don't know. Where, how did that? What was the final trigger to say I'm going to do this? When you had no boat, no money, you just had your little thing there, and something said you got to do this.
Yeah, that's a good question. I can't really. Well, I can pinpoint several moments that kept pushing me to it, but one being I well, when I put it out there, there's enough people that seemed like, at least somewhat interested in being able to donate a little bit. And um, yeah, I just started working a little bit and put the little money I had towards that entry fee. And then when I realized I can definitely pay the entry fee within the next month or something from, working or selling my van or something, it wouldn't be that out of care or that difficult. But then, $5,000 versus the 150 that I'll need for the race, it's, it's a, chump change. But I yeah, I would say one of the moments I could definitely share is that I was at this like little surf exposition, and we thought it was gonna be really cool, me and my buddy Corey, and so we drove out there, and this is kind of in the middle of me being really tossed and turning, like, I don't have a boat, I don't have any backers that are gonna be able to afford the boat. My fundraisers aren't like, they're not really, there's no way it's gonna
Parties, yeah.
happen. Yeah, and et cetera. And so he's like, all right, let's just go down and check it out. And it was just a miserable like lineup. Like there's like no cool things. It's all like really weird, cheap, yeah, it's just not a good experience. And we're like, why are we here? This is
This is
so
looking at
lame.
boats. This is looking at boats.
No, this is
Surf.
looking at surfboard
Surf break.
things.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It was just like it was like an exposition. So they had a bunch of
Yeah.
like brands and stuff, and
Yep.
we were just we heard that there'd be free shit that we could have, and
Free boards. Yeah,
like,
right.
yeah, or like,
Yeah.
yeah, just a cool scene, meet cool people or
Yeah.
something. But it wasn't like that, and it was disappointing. And we're like, why are we here? We're gonna be there for 2 days, but then we're like, let's just go home tonight. This sucks. And so we're pretty bummed, and like, why are we here? And then on the way out, there was like this weird animatronic machine that like is like a fortune teller, a
Yeah.
weird robot thing where it's like,
Electric one.
give
Yeah.
us give us $1 and, Zoltar will tell you your fortune. And Corey looks at me and
no.
it's set up for free because one of those shop vendors was like trying to get people's attention or whatever. And he's like, hey man, it's for free. Like, go get your fortune, no problem. And I'm like, dude, I'm not doing that. That creeps me out and is like the stupidest thing that people would ever do that.
Yeah.
And, I'm just writing it out immediately. And Corey's like, laid back.
Put
and
your
like,
hand on the hand or something, and it reads your vibes, and it comes.
Yeah, or whatever.
GGR,
You just put
GGR.
Yeah. Well, exactly. So I was just like, and the whole time we were talking the whole trip up and back about me and the possibility of even getting a boat, getting the funds for anything, and then getting to France is see if I can even do that, or let alone sail around the world. So it was just like weird, nonstop talking about it, and I just had so many doubts. And I remember telling him like, dude, I want to keep pushing, but I think pretty soon I got to make a decision if I keep pushing or I'm wasting my time. I don't know. And so I was kind of at this crossroads that week and really thinking about giving it up. And he presses the little button and he pops out his fortune, and it's all creepy and talking to him. And he's kind of like disappointed by his fortune. And he's like, do it. And I was like, I'm not doing that. And he's like, come on, don't be lame. And I'm like, all right, whatever. And I press the button, it reads me or whatever, and then it pops out a little ticket. And I saved the ticket. I still have it somewhere. And the ticket literally has a picture of a sailboat and a fishing boat out in leaving a harbor. And the thing said, the fortune says, it says, you are thinking about taking on a grand adventure. Don't hesitate. It says, don't hesitate. The people and experiences you'll have along the way will be worth it, or something like that. And I was like,
you kidding me?
I was like, oh man,
and must be some more, baby.
yeah, for real. No, it was crazy. I was just like, this is, and Corey just cracked up, and he was just like, dude, that is wild. And I just, and those are the things in life I learned, and I still am learning. And there's moments like that where sometimes the world can throw something so obvious to you, and you can still write it off. You can say it's a coincidence, or you can totally say like, this was some weird cheap animatronic machine that gave me, like, I can't take this seriously, but you get the choice to. And I think that's so powerful that you get to choose what gives you power and what gives you motivation and encouragement, and you get to choose what you believe in. So I just right then and there, I started to let it sink back in. Like, I think I can do this, and I've just got to believe that this will happen, and just keep plugging away. Don't give it up. And so that's what I did. I just kept plugging away, kept asking, kept doing fundraisers and put myself out there. And then sure enough, I get the phone call from a good friend of mine that I met in the Bahamas on the old boat. And Vanya is his name. And he just, been unbelievable help in so many ways. And he just calls me, and I tell him what's going on. He was like, it's like, dude, why haven't you called me sooner? Like he's like, let's get this. Like, he's like, and we had talked, you said, you just got to get the boat, even if it's in bad shape or whatever, like, you get a boat that can qualify, and you'll get the sponsors. And so that was the route. And
the support.
Well, support.
People believe you. It's so important. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I told him that, and he's like, I completely agree. He's like, let's take care of he's like, I got the boat. Like, let's get it. And I said, oh my gosh, are you kidding? And he's like, no. Like, let's do it. Like, don't worry about it. It's on, like, it's going to happen. And he's like, so pick a boat around this range or whatever, and we'll make it work, and whatever you think is right. And so that's when the search started. And then, everybody seems to know the name.
Because what you've just been saying, I see that so often. It's all happened to me, like 40 years ago, 50 years ago, all that sort of stuff, just believing in what you want to do. Take the funniest little signs, you can't sleep at night. You just know when it's right. You know what I mean? And you ponder, you ponder. It's an idea. And then all of a sudden They say, oh, bugger it, got to do it, you know. And then once you trigger to that, you cannot stop. And I say the corniest line, you know, so it sounds really corny, but it's so true. The moment it's over, it's gone. You know, you cannot stop. You just got to keep going, and that's the difference. You know, huge difference. So that's
I agree.
A really funny story. I don't know about this Zolta thing. Geez, my new favorite word. You know, magic machines, like a you know. Anyway, that's another story. So that's pretty cool. And the other thing I'd say is there must be. I wonder there's another agenda there or something behind you, because you've got. I mean, you conned the first guys to put in $400 to buy a bucket, right? And and then you've got this natural attraction to get people to live, because you're a deep thinker. You know, you're thinking outside the box. Have you got any, like, who's your heroes? There must be some other heroes or other inspirations or something that tends to direct who you are. I mean, I know you're really young, but there's something there that's going on that's a little bit different than the norm. You know what I mean? Is there something else there? Like, not, you know, I'm not saying it's religion, or I'm not saying it's anything, but has something happened that think is making you who you are? You know?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think I would say there's a lot of I think I take influence pretty easy, and draw inspiration pretty from a lot of different things, and I think that's part of the way, or part of the reason that I might see things a little bit differently, because maybe I'm lucky to have experienced a lot of different things in life, and, you know, loss and sufferings and joys and amazing blessings, and you know, all sorts of different ways. And I think that those have all, I think I've just continued to let myself be open to being influenced. And but specific people, I mean, I can't really draw anything right off the top of my mind. There's some books, like I remember The Alchemist was a big influence on me, and especially starting to believe in, like, the spiritual side of the world, or spiritual side of things again. And because I grew up very Christian, actually, and very religious, and I separated from it and turned, like, very anti it for a while, and then I kind of just got bopped on the head one day, a whole nother experience, and reawoke to the idea that there might be something more, and that slowly really started building slowly. And then books like The Alchemist, or even Dove, or meeting people and then letting those experiences shape me, continuing to grow. Yeah.
It's really interesting, because I was brought up as a typical Christian, you know, like not a radical Christian or anything like that, but eventually you forget about the guy on the cross, but you believe in a superior being.
Yeah.
And you don't know what that is. I put the superior being thing down to be nature, the forces of nature, everything that keeps happening, because you reach out to that superior being often when you're doing adventures, but it's not the guy on the cross. You know, it's just my personal opinion. You know, I respect all religions and stuff, but that's interesting, to go down the same track, because you've got this even a very, you know, interesting group of experience so early. So okay, so then you get the boat, and Jane and I are thinking, wow, he's got a boat. It's a good one. You know, I know that boat really well when it first came out in the 70s. You know, I thought, wow, and I thought they built a lot more, actually. They didn't build many, but it's a nice boat. So you get a boat, and then you're sort of scrapping around with, you know, secondhand this, secondhand that, you know, ripping it apart yourself, having refit parties on board, you know, very happy. And we're still thinking, oh, I don't know. And then you finally get underway, and everything seemed to ramp up dramatically when you got up to Boston stuff, new hydrovane, bloody gear coming on. And I know a lot of your supporters are not out to, you know, sort of, you know, brand the whole thing and this, that, and the other, but it's pretty powerful. You had some really solid support, you know, getting out of the States to come across the Atlantic. I don't know how much you want to talk about that, but it was very impressive.
Yeah, no, it was very impressive, because at the time I kind of, you know, I had Vanya who helped do the boat initially, and then I didn't want to, I really got uncomfortable with the idea of asking any more of specific people like him and a few other people that were heavily involved financially, and just because I felt like, okay, they've given already so much. I can't ask more. Et cetera. And then, but at the point where I got the boat in the water, which was a fight, and a time fight as well. And then, I had designed my own wind, like a wind
Aries.
yeah, I tried to fit an Aries, and that didn't go well. And then I had my own version of
the trim tab.
The trim tab system that I worked on with on the phone with this guy who had a gale force, and he had never gotten his to work, but we were troubleshooting it, and I thought I had it. And so we get on the boat with, I drag poor Maddie on the boat with me, who'd never been sailing in a day in her life. And we go 3 days offshore, and poor girl's puking overboard the half the time. And I didn't have anything set up right. I'd never really used a furling jib before practically, and everything's going wrong that could. And of course the self-steering it failed pretty immediately. And so I'm hand steering and setting up, sheet to tiller. Long story short, I get to Charleston only 2 or 3 days up, and I'm like, I have no safety gear besides a little tiny med kit. And I have one EPIRB on the boat, and I had a Garmin InReach, and that was the only technology I had on the boat, the only safety equipment I had on the boat. Nothing else. And, let alone all the stuff for the race. And, so I'm thinking, I'm severely, I'm 50 grand in, short. And then I still, I don't have a mainsail. I don't have, there's a bunch of other things potentially going wrong.
The secondhand sales were really twigging me. I'm thinking, holy dooly. Oh man.
Yeah. So, and then honestly, there was like probably 2 or 3 people, and Vanya being the main one. And he was like, dude, he's like, why aren't you keeping me in the loop about this, man? Like, I told you, I've got you. Like, I think he realized, like, right then it was like, he's probably like, honestly, we got to do an interview with him one day. But he's probably like, this guy, I basically just bought him a boat and like invested all this money, and there's like, I might as well go all the way in. He's probably thinking, like, otherwise I just wasted my money.
Give me one sentence about Vanya. Who is he? I sort of know, but what's? I mean, I'm sure he won't mind. He doesn't want to be talked about, but where's he fit in the scheme of things? What's he do?
Well, he's retired now. He's had a business with like web developing, I believe, and he is a sailor, and has a family up north, and and just a good adventurous guy, and believed me. And we just had a lot of cool conversations. Coincidentally, when I met him, it was right around the time I just learned about Metissier and the Golden Globe race, and we're sitting in his cockpit in the Bahamas, like at a nice sunset, and having a beer. And
what's his
we're
boat?
talking about
what boats he got.
He has oh man, a Hylas.
Hylas? Oh yeah, 45 or something.
I think
about a 45.
I think a 52 or
52. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. Yeah, sweet boat. And so we're just sitting back chatting, and talking a lot about philosophy and all sorts of things, just getting along really well. And we just stayed in touch. So that's how we that's my connection to him. And just a big believer. And you
get dumping on the boat, and you're slowly ticking the boxes, and then it's nearly time to
so he's like, come on up, like, I got the best boatyard in the whole country right here that I go to, and we're gonna get those guys to crush the things that you haven't tackled yet. And there's a lot of things I still haven't tackled, and that's exactly the time when I mean, the engine was profusely spilling everything in exhaust. Like, it was horror. The cutwater fitting was crevice corroded, and it was just a lot of cool people there in Massachusetts that came to help. And we're working on at the yard, and just incredible yard. And then that was the same time Josh.
There was a lot of people in in Les Sables d'Olonne. We really were wanting you there, you know. And I remember having
Yeah.
a conversation with Yannick at one stage. Oh, you know, no way, you know, there's no way he's going to get here in time. And then I remember calling him up about a week later and said, "Hey, Yannick, I think he's coming. He's going to be late. He's got no safety. It's training and nobody this and that, but
Oh,
he's
that
coming."
was miserable. Yeah.
There's a bit of a
Yeah.
cheer went up, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, yeah. So it's just crazy how fast it all came together. And then right around that time, I'm going up the coast. Josh, the manager and Buddy, he texts or he sends me an Instagram message saying, "Hey, I saw your Hydrovane just shared your story that you're trying to do the GGR. I kind of saw that you were entered, but I didn't think you would actually get this far." And he's like, "I've always kind of wanted to do GGR and get involved at least." And he's like, and I look at his photos and he looks pretty damn
Well,
similar to
that's the
me.
first
And
time you met Josh.
yeah, he just messaged me
Jeepers, I thought you were
online.
long-time friends.
No,
Wow.
I didn't know him until a month before I left for the race.
Jeepers, another crazy.
Yeah, so
Well,
he just shows up on his boat,
yeah.
beautiful boat and 27 footer, and reminded me of my old boat, but in way better shape. And and he's a fantastic sailor, and
Yeah, yeah.
it was
Cool guy.
terrific manager, and
Yeah.
just put his life on halt as well. And um, yeah, between us three and the boatyard, we just worked until, I mean, there was me and Josh worked till about 3 a.m. sometimes till sunrise for 10 days straight.
Yeah.
I mean, it was brutal, but we got it done.
Yeah. So then what were you feeling when you finally got going, like to sail across the Atlantic? Like there must have been because I honestly believe, and I was saying this even when you're crossing the equator, I said it to many people. I said, you got no idea what you're doing or why you're there. You're just you're flowing along with this dream. And
Mm.
and so it's no disrespect. I mean, you knew what
No,
you're
it's
doing.
okay. Yeah.
You said, wow, man, what's happening? She's sheepish. I'm still going. So take it back to that first one when you stepped away. It must have been even more intense, like not really sure whether you're going to get there, but just still following the dream.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I just kept on. I mean, at that point, I was just decided that virtually nothing would stop me from getting to the start line, because now I had, financial backing, and I had, basically two managers that were working together to get things done while I was traveling or while I was crossing. And, I had family and my partner, everybody just totally on board. And everybody just kept saying like, "Yeah, dude, like you're meant to do this. Like we've seen so many different things." And I just didn't have any other choice. I was just like, like,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I
yeah.
believe it.
We were the same, as the organizer. It was very challenging because we can't break the rules. You got to stick to it. So you're getting hammered there, and we were putting a lot of pressure on you. But then all of
Yeah.
a sudden, you found solutions all the way along the line, you and your team, to get your safety training done,
The
get your
safety training was the
medical stuff done.
hardest
It
part,
was just
probably.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know whether a lot
Yeah.
of people know that, but you're having to fly all the. You'd left the boat. They're working on the boat to Sables d'Olonne. You fly to somewhere else, do 10 days of training, but then fly somewhere else. And I mean, it was
Yeah.
crazy, but you ticked the boxes.
Yeah. It was by the skin of our teeth, but it was yeah, it was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And so, okay, so then start day. What was happening in your head then?
Start day was a wreck. I was quite emotional. I think it just all summed up seeing all those all those people all at once, and just I get pretty excited, and even growing up playing soccer and stuff, like for a big game, my heart would be through the roof, and whether I rode the bench or not, it didn't even matter. And so I definitely get emotional like that. And yeah, I just realized like, whoa, I did just cross the Atlantic, and pretty safely, and did well, and now the boat's even in better shape, and now I have all the safety equipment on board, so I should feel even better. And
Yeah,
then,
that's right.
but in reality, like the Atlantic was my first time ever going through like an ocean storm, and it wasn't even that bad. And uh so I was pretty nervous, and just thinking about like that anything could happen, especially down in the Southern Ocean, and just emotional that I made it, to the start
Yeah.
line, which was just unbelievable. And I think it was just overwhelming to see and look back at the impact that the story that I was able to start, that I was leading and was going to continue to lead. And it just, yeah, felt really
Yeah,
beautiful.
that's the GGR all over. It's the other people that they're following. We've got a huge underground following of sailors all over the world, and they're all learning and getting inspired and things like that. It's pretty powerful. But so you
Yeah.
get down to Lanzarote, and you definitely made up in your mind you were going to stop, anchor, and regroup. It was very obvious to see. You know what I mean? And it was an interesting time because, again, I could see really strongly that it was deep and meaningful, but you still, there was something there that was how do I sort of not? I wouldn't say you're getting pushed along, but you were free to let it roll. You were just freewheeling. Like would that be? Does that relate to you? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
know what to expect.
absolutely.
You didn't really care. You feel safe. So I don't know. You try and describe it, but it was a pretty interesting stop over there. When you then caught up with a few friends again and stuff.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, I kind of, the race in general I wanted to treat it. The reason I even, or a big part of the reason I'm interested in sailing at all is because I often find that it draws me, to the present moment and enforces it sometimes. And I really enjoy that, and I learn a lot about myself and about the world through that. And so when I even signed up for the race, and whenever, things kept escalating, becoming more real, I made a promise to myself that I would not be, would not let pride or ego get in the way of being present. And so if that meant I'm out, and if I'm 2 weeks away from France and something tells me to go into Spain and screw off, and then I would do it, or if something broke or something wasn't reasonable and like I was gonna, make a poor decision, then, or like I just didn't want, because I realized that what I wanted was more than just the ability to say I'm a single-handed circumnavigator, like, without stopping. And life, I wanted to be, I didn't want to hold on to such a title where I would lose myself. And so
Yeah.
that was important for me throughout the race. And so when I was approaching Lanzarote, I thought about it. I was like, man, people are going to give me so much hell at first, my initial thoughts, I was like, people are going to give me so much hell for motoring straight in for like 8 hours today. Like, yeah, I'm going to get a bad time penalty probably. But I also thought like it might be strategic to do that because everybody else was sitting for a whole day. And I was like, I
Yeah.
might
Yeah.
make up that time, honestly.
Absolutely.
And I think I would have if I didn't anchor. and But then when I decided to anchor, I was just, like, I wanted to, I heard my friends were there, and I wanted to say hey to them because they were a big part of my journey in general there. And
You could have got
Kiana
Corey
and
to go back to Zolta and press the button. It's just
I know,
anchor,
right?
anchor, anchor.
Well, yeah, it was just all these little things. And Kiana and Lark, the idea that they were there on their Matanoka was just, I was like, they're huge inspirations to me, and they're a whole nother group of people that I hope people will follow and get inspired by. And so yeah, it was just a no-brainer to
Yeah,
stop
yeah,
for the night. And also I heard about what happened to poor Guy, and
yeah,
I was like, I'm tired pulling in here. I've been at the helm for 8 hours in the sun and motoring, and the last thing I want to do is do something stupid and fall asleep and hit a reef, so
yeah.
I've took I'm very lucky that I got to learn from poor guy's mistake, uh
Yeah.
and so I otherwise they very well could have been me, so
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Anyway, it was good. I mean, it was you all over. We had a good chat, and people got to learn more about you and stuff. Because a lot of the people are just picking up your story, during the voyage. Some people only met you the first time, maybe when you cross over the equator or something, because it's quite a story. So then you head down through the Atlantic, and you had plenty of challenges. Like, it was a tough sail in a lot of ways, but you had surprising bouts of good speed at times. Well, not surprising, but the boat goes, you goes when everything's working. I mean, yeah, sure, there's a few leaks, but you got a hammer on. You're doing okay. That must have felt
Yeah.
good.
Oh, when I was moving well, it was epic, but it was far in between at times. And, to be honest, I would say I didn't start to really understand how to sail this boat properly and get it to the right speed, and until the trade winds after the doldrums. And that's honest. Like, that's not an excuse or anything, but I really, right around the trade winds is when I started to realize, like, oh, I haven't been, like, really embarrassing things I probably shouldn't admit, but like things like my staysail halyard was never tight, and like
Right,
I wasn't getting proper tension on that, or like learning that, like, oh, it really does matter to move the cars forward and backwards on the jib track, and
yeah,
like,
it matters.
oh, I mean, it's things like that I was just like really embarrassing in some ways, and like I that's just how but that's how I had to learn, and with at that point I was really moving, and I was really making ground, and besides a few bad weather days after the Trinidad, and
Yeah.
otherwise I really was happy with my pace, and especially getting closer to South Africa, I was really starting to put my miles in. As the wind was more steady, I was like, oh, this boat is one of the faster boats in the race. If the skipper knew what he was doing earlier, it might have helped.
Well, you said that, not me. Anyway,
yeah.
So then Ada and I were really miffed, and Jane wasn't even down there, but we were a bit miffed. We missed you in Cape Town.
Yeah.
And anyway, it was good to see you when Pete and Eve and everyone were there to do the deal. And then you turn the corner and your bowsprit goes. Geez, we were under a lot of pressure to stop you.
I imagine. I somewhat looked through some of the social media posts, the bigger ones, that my name has 1,000 million notifications on now, and everybody and their mom has an opinion on
exactly
on you guys letting me, or my sanity, sanity. So
we were in a no-win situation, but I had faith, and you
were.
Basically the way it evolved worked out really well. And there was various opinions, and you did a great job, and nothing's perfect because you're not in a perfect workshop with all the gear, but it was a really good shot. And basically our attitude was, just so you know, because we've never really spoken about it, was that we genuinely believed you were safe, and even if the whole thing collapsed, we figured you could do exactly what you did. So we were pretty impressed and very happy to let you go. It was a very conscious decision, and it was based effectively on your efforts. Simple as that. So it was very impressive. I think you at that point, I couldn't any longer say that you didn't know what you were doing, and you were being swept along by this energy and enthusiasm of all your supporters and this, that, and the other. So, hey, dude, this is him. He's doing this. He knows exactly what he's doing now, and he knows how to adjust a Genoa car, so it's okay.
Yeah, well, I think you're spot on. I think approaching Cape Town, or pretty much when I rounded, a big moment for me, realizing that I started knowing what I was doing and could do these things, was that when I founded Trinidad with when I approached Trinidad spot on with just the sextant, and not having any contact with GPS or ships for like 30 days. So it was a big feat where I realized, like, oh, I'm not just following the energy, and I do have fight, and I do know what I'm doing, and I can figure this out. And then the next part was when I approached Cape Town and was making better speeds and happy with my sailing, and then the bowsprit thing was just like, there was a big moment where I said, maybe I should stop and get this fixed, with the right tools and profession, and etc. But I something came over me and said, like it's not time to give up yet. Like, this is the moment for the second wind of, in a way, like,
Yeah.
what do I have in me? And I know I can think structurally pretty well, whether I'm a sailor or was like a super efficient sailor or not. Like, I know what keeps a rig up, and I know like what I can do to make sure that I will be safe, just as safe as anybody else. And I felt confident. And like you said, if the bowsprit did happen to collapse even, and again, that I would still be okay. And I was, and I am thankful that the few weeks that it lasted, um, it did hold up well, and I was pretty confident in it until it started to go a little slack, and then when I backwinded the jib on that windy day on the pole, it just bent it up even more and just gave
That's
it
what
out.
happened. I didn't know about that. I know you had this epic day when you were breaking all records. You were flying, and the
I
next
know.
so it actually backwinded. You had the pole out, and you rounded up or something.
Yeah, I was pushing it. It was probably, I don't remember how, maybe like 25 knots, but dead downwind, wing on wing. And I think I had one reef in the main, and like maybe, and I had that big Genoa on still, because I was just like, I'm not going slow with the other thing. And so I had that big Genoa on, and I think I had like one or two wraps on it, but
Yeah.
not hardly anything. And I went to bed, and I knew it was picking up. And early in the morning, like around dusk, I was really, I backwinded once already, and I was like, oh man, I should take some end. Like I really should. This is pushing it, but I'm like, I know I'm probably going 9 knots right now, steady.
Yeah. Yeah, you were
And I
fine.
was, yeah, like my Walker log was like just skipping the whole
Ooh, that's
time.
marlin food. That one, that fast. Ooh.
Yeah, yeah. I was so excited, and I was like, I can't stop. And then all of a sudden, so I go down below to like kind of like keep my mind
Oh
off of
yeah.
the idea that I could, do something stupid. And I didn't think that it would mess the bowsprit up so bad. And then I'm like down below cooking or something, and then it backwinded again hard, and I heard like a pop, and then I come up and I look, and it's, immediately I'm like, okay, I got to take the whole thing in. So I just furl it all up, and immediately as I start furling it, I see the whole stay going,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was like,
Okay.
oh
Yeah.
no. And
Yeah.
then I go forward, and even there's so much pressure, the metal, stainless fitting I have, that the ring on the front of the mast that it clips onto the spinnaker pole, that whole thing right now is crushed and bent backwards.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
mean,
Don't say too
yeah,
much.
so
Don't say too much. You're going to sell the boat. Remember.
yeah, well, yeah, I know. That's the only damage.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So okay, so that was the new reality. But there's
yeah.
got to be some funny stories about you then going up and down the mast 5 times, getting your measurement 15 feet too short, dropping your forestay over the side, completely muffing it up, and said, "Oh well, that's it. I'm stuffed. I'm going home now. Bye bye." Tell us
Yeah,
some of it. Tell us
you
what's
think
going
I
on.
was throwing it.
I think it was
I got some,
sabotage. You just had enough, and you wanted to throw it all over. That solves the problem.
yeah,
What
yeah,
happened?
throwing the kickoff right at the
Yeah.
end. Um, yeah, I was just I learned a lot in that moment looking back, and I learned one that patience is a serious virtue, and I really should have just been more patient and said, the boat will, my spare halyards, was my plan to get from A to B if it all went to hell anyways. Like, why wouldn't I trust it right now until I am completely safe to do this fix really properly and make it a stem rig boat? And, but I just didn't think that. I had in my mind, like, when's the next storm coming?
Yeah.
When,
Oh, that's right.
I don't know if the halyards are actually as strong as, I don't know. I've never experienced that under Jerry. I don't know how much it can take. And so my idea was like, right now there's no wind. It doesn't matter if there's 10 to 15 foot swells from two different ways, bearing rail to rail,
At
tipping
least you
side to
got to go up the
side.
mast, But anyway,
Yeah. And so I'm up there, and I'm trying to, just getting the stay down was hard enough. Oh my gosh, just taking it apart and dropping the furler without, it crashing down and putting a hole in the deck. And um, I got it down, and yeah, I cut the furler too short and realized I couldn't make it up a chain because that was the only that stay was swedged, and I couldn't re-swedge it or anything. So it was a loss, and I was like, "Oh, that sucks." And so I lashed that down, and I mean, just dealing with a 45-foot furler gear on a 34-foot boat is insane, and half the time it's dragging in the water, and like you just it was just such a fight. And then I grabbed the backup cap shroud, and only needed like 3 feet of chain to make up for the bottom of the stay, and I was like, this is gonna be fine, and I'll just use the other jib that I have as a hank on, and it'll work, and I can see how it goes, and it'll be a strong boat, and it'll be just as safe as anything with the metal stay going to the stem, and just the bowsprit will be useless. And so that's kind of where I was, and I climbed up there, and I tried to pin it, and I just only had one hand to work with. I'm using like my damn tongue to try and push the clevis pin through, and because it's like insane up there, like I'm bashing my ribs, I'm dropping tools overboard.
It's
and
good for your next job CV, using my tongue to push a clevis pin through.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And so, yeah, long story short, I decided, I was like, okay, I'm gonna tether this in case I do drop it up there. I can just come back down. I'd be another mast climb, whatever.
Yeah.
And so I tethered the turnbuckle to the chain that I had at the stem. And so when I dropped it up there on accident, after like the 7th time up there or whatever, I'm coming back down. I'm at the spreaders, and I hear it I hear it slithering on my lifelines, and it's kind of dragging in the water a little bit, and I'm like not worried about it because I tethered it. And then all of a sudden I hear no more slithering, or like one loud slithering, and I look and I just see the last bit of it go boop, and the whole thing, and I'm like, and I kind of just I'm laughing, I'm just like, this is, how did that happen? A, and B, like, this is just this is the sign. This is it.
Yeah, it's finite. It's like when you drop something in the marina when you're working. So, there's nothing you can do. That's it. It's all over.
That's it. And so I get down to the deck level, and I'm like, and I see I didn't think it would, unravel 15 turns off the turnbuckle because I didn't put a pin through the hole.
Yeah.
A pin, cotter pin. And so I have half the turnbuckle now, and no stay. And
you're gonna keep that. Take it home. Keep it on the mantelpiece.
Yeah, for real.
Yeah.
So okay, that's when I knew it was the end of the race.
So then it's sort of game over, and there's not many options left. So you're coming up. You did a really good job. I mean, at that point, all the people said, "Oh, I see, you told you should never let him go," and blah 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 blah, and all that sort of stuff.
I'm sure you got it.
You did it, and it was that was quite a deal,
Yeah, I mean, 3 halyards going down, and I started realizing it halfway through, and I figured, I'm not pushing the boat at all anymore. I only got the staysail up, and I'm keeping the second reef in. So, I mean, second reef was underneath, the top of it was still underneath the staysail. And I have running back stays. I have 3 stays. I have 2 back stays, and I have 3 halyards going for it. I was like,
it was.
This is not going anywhere. Yeah.
No, good job. Okay, so you turn up without charts and have a bit of a party, and you've had a shave, and you're looking very civilized, and people said, "What was that about? What did he do?" So listen, I can talk forever, and I'm looking forward to catching up eventually and having a good natter. But there's some people who've given me about 6 questions, so we better quickly knock over these questions and then get it going. So, Gillian, okay, from Gillian, go back in time. If you could change anything, what would you change? If you were going back in time, one thing you could change differently for the GGR, what would have it been?
Well, The obvious, I would have the bowsprit replaced or at least looked at. And besides that obvious, I would have some kind of solent rig. Um, I would have the outer forestay be Hank on, and I would have the inner solent stay be a Yankee instead of a giant Genoa. And I would also, or something like that. I would have an extra stay that goes, or I would just have an extra stay going right from the top of the mast to the stem from now on. But no, yeah. Assuming that the bowsprit is good, I would do some kind of solid and use a Yankee.
Yeah. Okay. So, Katie, for a 6-year-old son, what were you thinking the second time the bowsprit failed? It's for a 6-year-old son. You got some good demographics and ages for fans.
Yeah.
So what was in your head the second time?
A little bit of heartbreak, and a little bit of confusion of, like we were talking about, I was just riding this energy, this like movement, the universe, God, like all these things. And for a moment, it felt like, I put my effort in so much. I have persevered. I have fought in so many different aspects to get to the start line, let alone in the race. And I had fought so hard to put the bowsprit back together in a meaningful way to fix it. And I thought would be, I put in so much effort on that. Why? That was kind of the question, was like, why did this happen? And like, it didn't seem fair that like I'd sacrificed so much and so many people around me had believed and sacrificed that. How could it end now, especially after already it failing once? And then, but yeah, I just had to let it go.
Yeah. Okay. So another one from Katie's 6-year-old son. So many entrants have dropped out through loneliness and mental challenges, like the whole, psychological game of the GGR. What's your strength? You know what I mean? Like, you drove through that aspect.
Yeah. Can you say the beginnings? My phone just went crazy.
So many of the entrants have actually stopped now because they were challenged by the loneliness and the mind game of the GGR, the psychological challenge. You seem to have driven through that. What's your strength?
I think that was actually pretty hard for me. At first, it wasn't. The loneliness was never the issue, which is funny. I don't know why. And the secret would be that you enjoy yourself and that you are, okay with tackling difficult things. And I think if I were to have, just jumped into something like that without having done a lot of solo traveling and experiencing life and embracing hardships already, I think it would have been a lot different story. But I seem to enjoy myself pretty much, but what was hard about it was being bored. I really struggled with that. I especially at the end, I really, even after the first time I fixed the bowsprit, even leaving South Africa, I was really struggling with that. And I don't have a good solution for it, honestly.
That's a facet of your age. You've got so much stimulation, so much life ahead of you. When you get a bit of a boring fart like us and grit and grey and stuff, you often spend time reflecting. You just look out the window and think, wow, but you got a lot ahead of you. So I can totally understand that. It reminds me when I was your age.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in the world. So, and travel, you're right. Travel just broadens horizons and that's what you've been through. Okay. So Colin's asking, what's it feel like to go from rookie to captain right now? Because you've retired from the GGR, but it's a pretty impressive situation.
Yeah, that's a good point. I definitely feel really confident on a sailboat now, and probably any boat. And I also
remember Genoa.
Yeah, well, I had so much time to experiment and learn and see the direct difference of something so simple of 2 inches on the car. and or yeah, I could go on about that. But the what's it? Yeah, it feels really good. I'm sure that it will lead me to a lot of fruitful work and different scenarios in life now that people can trust me that I know what I'm doing, I guess, somewhat on a boat. And yeah, it feels great that I'm at a place where I just feel confident in myself, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so Mitch says, I know you're still going through your GGR, achievements and retirements and this, that, and the other, but are you considering to do something similar or GGR again or anything like that?
I figured that question would come.
Wasn't from me.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I consider it. Um, yes, I do consider it, and I definitely want to be involved with ocean racing going forward. And um, I not even I don't know. I also love cruising, so it's tough to say that that's why the GGR is so hard for me to not stop and cruise and see places. And if it was a legged GGR, I would be amped and um and I would say it's definitely be on top of my list. But um I think GGR specifically, um I would have to have a pretty good sign, another Zoltar sign.
Zoltar.
Yeah,
Everyone's going to print
yeah.
t-shirts. Man, if people find that Zoltar machine, if it's still out the front of that two bob lot, everyone's going to go
Yeah.
to the Zoltar. Where's Zoltar?
Yeah, so I think I'm open to something like that, or even the GGR again. I'm totally open to it, but not thinking about it right now.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Peeps. In 1960, if you were in 1968 GGR with no
Hmm.
communications and so on, would have you sailed on or would have you made for land once the bowsprit collapsed and stuff?
Ooh, that's a good question. That's a really good one. I don't know specifically what he means because I would have to get to land eventually. So I think I think I would have made port to Australia like I did.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So John Edwards, you're going to stay a while in Australia and have a bit of fun, like a relax. So Australia's full of adventure.
Yeah, it sure is, and it's a wonderful place so far. Yeah, I'm gonna be here probably through February, making preparations for the market here, and my partner, she's flying out, and she's always wanted to come to Australia, so we're gonna make it a fun trip, like just like he suggests, and we'll
Yeah,
probably stay on West Australia, and not knowing that this country is massive, and
yeah.
and
It's big.
my friends on the East Coast are very far away. So
Yeah. Okay. So one last question from David. Knowing what you do now from having, got this far in the GGR, what would
mhm.
an experienced Elliot tell an Elliot getting ready to depart from America to sail across the GGR? You know what I mean? What advice would you give Elliot, now, a young Elliot over the other side?
Mm. Besides the technical advice, um, maybe just to keep in mind, just have patience. I mean, that's obvious, but just continuing to just remind myself, like when stuff hits the fan, like it did,
Yeah,
to really the first time I made the repair, I took a long time to think about it. I took a long time to make sure I was in a safe place to do it or in a safe zone to work on it. And I didn't do that the second time because I rushed and I was anxious and it wasn't clear. So I think a reminder But otherwise, I'm pretty proud of young Elliot for what I've done so far, and my mindset going into it. I think I am very I don't
Yeah.
know, proud of the way I entered it.
Yeah, so you should be. It's a great story, and I think you've inspired more than a handful of people. So we'll look forward to see what happens. So you're going to sell the boat. How are people going to get in touch to sell the boat? You're going to list it with a broker or whatever, or you're just going to put it out there? Did you get a lot
I'm
of
gonna put it
people?
out there, and then I'm gonna put it on like the whatever the free internet
Oh,
ones, like sailboat stuff
oh, there's a
listings
big
or
one down this end of the world called Yacht Hub. Yacht Hub is where
Yacht Hub.
people go. It's
Okay.
$300 and it goes forever or something.
Oh,
But anyway,
okay.
we can chat about that. So
Yeah. So that's what I'll do, and then, but apparently everybody that or all the ocean going boats got bought up during COVID on West Australia. So there's
yeah,
everybody here in the marina. I've already had 2 people come up and mention that they might be interested. So
yeah. Okay, well, good luck with
pretty
that.
cool. Thanks.
And if nothing else, I'm not sure when I get to see you because we're heading back to France soon, hopefully. Touch wood.
Yeah.
And but it'll be a big party in Les Sables d'Olonne, so you got to front up, bring your whole team. We want to see everyone. If you can find Zoltan,
Yeah.
bring him along. It'll be a big hit.
Yeah, maybe I'll charge for it.
Man, yeah, you could, get it all rolling. So anyway, a lot of fun, eh? And we you've done an amazing job. And what do you say? I mean, it's great. And we'll look forward to see where it goes from here, eh? And I'm glad
thanks,
that
John.
I think it's still rolling. So that's kind of cool. All right, so good luck in the West, and you know where we are, and we'll be chatting anyway. So
Sounds good.
Yeah, all good. All right, have fun, and what do we say? Ooh, we're going to miss you. But there you go.
Yeah.
That's the GTR. It's
Yeah,
crazy, right?
I'm gonna miss it too. Even though it was crazy and drove me nuts sometimes, I'll miss it, and I'll miss you guys. But we'll stay in touch.
Yeah, okay, sounds good. Big hug. Jane says g'day and all that sort of stuff. And,
Yeah,
and thanks
same.
for doing this one. All right, I'll
Cool.
see if I can turn this off slowly now. I'll get that in the screen as well, and I'll get rid of you. So thanks, mate. See you later. Boom, boom, and then I'll get rid of me, and I'll say goodbye. Boom, boom.